I'm here at the circuit of Anglesey to experience scooter racing. Now, personally, I've never really been a big fan of scooters, but watching some of these hybrid machines go around the circuit, these boys are taking it seriously. Nori, what is your fascination with scooters?
Basically, I needed transport in the 60s, and I got involved with them, and I've stayed with them ever since. It's as simple as that.
Did you get involved in the mod frenzy that was happening then as well?
Very much, yes. In fact, all the mirrors on the front of the bike, the mink tail, etc. Of course, when I tried to join the Vespa Club of Glasgow, I was refused entry until I got rid of the mirrors. Very Puritan crowd, honestly.
Now, what specifically about the scooters made you pick scooters rather than, say, bikes? I think a lot of guys kind of went for bikes.
I think simplicity. They looked easy to work on, and they are easy to work on. And I think even now young people get involved with them because they're easy to... They're handy. You can pull them around, you can do this, you can take bits off. I think there's an infection about them. I think people do like scooters, and if you like scooters and you get involved, you can go much further.
Why do guys race scooters? I mean, do you know what I mean? They've got very small wheels, they're quite light. I mean, I can't imagine the handling's particularly that brilliant. So what is it about that they do?
It's the challenge. It's the challenge of making them work and getting around the circuits, breaking the lap records, etc.
And the actual sort of classes of the scooters, is it quite a broad sort of spectrum?
Yes, in essence, there are two groups. There are standards and specials. Standards, it looks a standard bike, maybe painted, etc. The engine tuning, there are fairly strict parameters. And on the specials, you can, as long as the frame's there and parts of the engine are there, you can really exploit that and develop something that will do over 110 miles an hour.
Scooters, they've achieved massive cult success in this country. One of the most fanatical enthusiasts is Nigel Cox. He has one of the largest collections of Lambrettas and is based in Weston-super-Mare.
This is the first model, an A model, built in 1947. The B model, 48, the C model, 50, the D, E and F. Now, most people won't recognise these as Lambrettas because they only came into England in 51. But over here, we have an LD which people will recognise. This is a classic Lambretta. It's an LD 150, 1955-56. And as you can see, now we've got side panels on it, we've got leg shields, the engine's now enclosed, it's shaft-driven, and the many things on this one which you wouldn't get on a motorbike. For instance, you've got a spare wheel. Now, this is the same as the front or the back. The colour is grey, which most cars in those days were grey. The levers, the petrol cap are now in white ivory, which was, again, a classic colour. And this represents someone to them would be their car. I mean, in those days, cars were very expensive.
Now from this, where do we go next?
Well, after this, they went to the LI range. Here we have a Lambretta Series 2, and as you can see now, the headlight now moves with the steering. They're also 4-speed gearbox, and they're chain-driven. And as you can see, they've moved up a lot now, they're quite modern.
Now, this one looks rather interesting, Nigel. It's very sporty. It's got a very sort of sharp paint scheme. What's that all about? Well,
this is a Rally Master. Now, in the 50s and 60s, people were preparing their own scooters. They were rallying them and racing them. So Lambretta produced this. It has a lot of things on it which you wouldn't get on a normal scooter. We have a stopwatch for timing. And on this side, a rev counter, and this drives direct from the engine. There's a map for reading your way and a map light. There's a stone scraper on the front to pull the stones and nails out of the tyres. And if you've got it stuck in the mud, there's even a handle on the back to pull it out.
Now, we've seen lots of models. In your mind, what's the absolute top one for you?
Well, the ultimate scooter for me, and I think for many people, is an SX200.
What is it about this scooter that you particularly like?
Well, now we've got a scooter that's brought right into the 60s now. It's a slim-style model. You haven't got the big fat mud guards. You've got nice shaped panels. And you've got a 200cc engine, which is what everybody wanted. You move from the LI range, which was just 45, 50 miles an hour if you're lucky, to something that's 66, maybe 70. And along with that, you've got a disc brake, you've got shock absorbers. All this is to increase the road holding and the handling. So you have a scooter that's very modern. And we're looking at something that was made more than 30 years ago, and it still looks good today.
Probably like most people, I'm very familiar with the sort of the mod theme with scooters. Why do you think the mods use the scooter as part of their culture? What was the sort of elements of it?
Being a mod was a way of life. You had a scooter, you had the clothing, you had the music. But particularly with Lambrettas and Vespas, you could put lots of accessories on. Every spare penny you got from working, you put mirrors on and crash bars and chrome. And unlike a motorbike, which many of them look the same, a scooter you can make it very individual. And you wore a parka, and you went to see the groups of Small Faces and the Who, and it was all part of your life at that time.
So it was like a complete lifestyle then, really, wasn't it?
To an extent, yes. I mean, you've got to think about you were only 16 and 17, and that was your first form of transport. Prior to that, you were catching a bus.
Terry, if this was my standard scooter, what sort of modifications could I do to increase the horsepower?
One of the easiest modifications is to use an aftermarket expansion chamber. This is one of ours. It's made up of cones, gives a considerable increase in power compared to the standard exhaust system, which dates back to the 60s. Hasn't changed since then. Bigger carburettor, different cylinder barrel. This is one of the aluminium barrels, Nickersill, reed valve. Creates a good boost in power compared to the standard barrel. There's a lot of parts in the motor that can be modified or uprated. Just depends how far you want to go.
Now, obviously, once I've increased the power in this, it has to handle a bit better and obviously has to stop. What do I do on those sort of...
Well, this particular bike is a customer of ours. He's got a lot of the usual parts fitted. An uprated shock absorber, adjustable damping, soft sticky tyres, wider wheel rims, uprated front dampers, the standard cable-operated disc brake converted to hydraulic operation, different brake pads in there, different rear brake shoes in there, a lot more stopping power than standard, and the bikes are put together with a lot of care to get all the geometry and everything else right so that it handles nicely on the road.
Terry, this is obviously the race version. Now, what are the modifications are different on this than what we've just seen on the other bike?
The engine unit is more tuned, larger carburettor, different fuel. Tyres are softer. Some of the bodywork is changed to fiberglass, so it's lighter. Ground clearance is improved. Kickstart is removed. Exhaust system is tucked away to increase the ground clearance. Brakes are uprated the same as the other bike. A lot of little differences all the way through the bodywork.
Now, Terry, don't take this offensively, but it looks a bit battered to me. It's not quite the sort of slick race machine that I imagined.
Well, this particular machine's been used for over 15 years on the racetrack. It works extremely well. It's capable of winning. You're not necessarily, don't have to want the prettiest machine. You want a machine that does the job. This one does the job.